Imagine a Nazi war criminal stepping off a ship in Buenos Aires, greeted not by handcuffs or death, but by opportunity. How did Argentina become one of the top Nazi safe havens after World War II? And what did President Juan Perón stand to gain from this controversial move? When the dust settled after the Second World War in 1945, many of the architects of Nazi Germany's atrocities were fugitives. While some faced justice at the Nuremberg trials, others desperately sought escape. Their salvation often came through clandestine networks, including the infamous rat lines, secret routes facilitated by sympathizers in Europe and South America, as high as clergy within the Vatican. For many, the journey ended in the sunlit streets of Buenos Aires, where they found not only safety, but in some cases, a fresh start. The man at the heart of this unlikely refuge was Argentina's then president, Juan Domingo Perón. But why would a leader like Perón, an ambitious figure aiming to modernize his country, embrace such a dangerous association, especially in light of the Nazis' position on the world stage? To understand, we must explore the turbulent currents of ideology, ambition, and geopolitics that defined Argentina in the 1940s. Juan Perón was a man who deeply admired Mussolini's Italy for its corporatist system, nationalism, and ability to create a centralized, authoritarian state while implementing social reforms. During his time as a military attaché in the 1930s, Perón observed Mussolini's regime firsthand and was impressed by its efficiency, discipline, and use of propaganda to unify society. He incorporated these elements into his own governance in Argentina, creating state-controlled unions, fostering a cult of personality, and implementing populist social programs inspired by fascist Italy. Perón adapted Mussolini's ideas to fit Argentina's context, blending them with socialist rhetoric to create the distinct political movement of Peronism. Perón's vision for Argentina's future mirrored aspects of fascist corporatism. A centralized state guided by a strong leader and an emphasis on national pride. Though Perón's ideology was not identical to Nazism, it shared both a strong anti-communist fervor and policies that often mirrored aspects of communism. Even still, Perón's government centralized power, controlled key industries, and implemented sweeping welfare programs to elevate the working class. Hallmarks of a state-directed economy that bore many similarities to communist regimes. However, Perón rejected the classless internationalist vision of Marxism, emphasizing instead a nationalist framework that sought to unify society under a strong, centralized state. This rejection of class struggle and his prioritization of national identity over global solidarity underpinned his vehement anti-communist stance. Despite his anti-communist rhetoric, Perón's policies incorporated many elements of state control and social welfare that resembled communist practices. This paradoxical blend of anti-communism and quasi-communist policies provided fertile ground for welcoming exiled Nazis who shared his disdain for Marxism, even as Perón's own vision differed significantly from theirs. In 1946, the year Perón became president, he sought to position Argentina as a global power, independent of both American and Soviet influence. Hosting ex-Nazis was, in part, a strategic calculation. Perón believed their scientific and military expertise could propel Argentina into a new era of technological and industrial strength. Former Nazi officials like Adolf Eichmann, Josef Mengele, and Erich Priebke, men whose names became synonymous with sadism and horror, found a haven in Argentina, blending into communities while contributing to the nation's ambitions. One chilling example of Perón's motivations was his push to recruit German scientists. Argentina's military sought advanced technologies, and Nazi engineers were seen as a shortcut to achieving these goals. Historian Uki Gonyi, author of The Real Odessa, notes, Argentina's open-door policy to Nazis was not merely about harboring fugitives, but about co-opting their skills for national development. This pragmatic calculation, prioritizing Argentina's ambitions over moral considerations, shaped the country's approach to immigration in the post-war years. Among the Nazis who escaped to Argentina, Adolf Eichmann stands out as one of the most infamous. Eichmann, known as the architect of the Holocaust for orchestrating the deportation of millions of Jews to extermination camps, arrived in Buenos Aires in 1950 under the alias Ricardo Clement. For a decade, he lived quietly in a modest suburb until Israeli Mossad agents tracked him down and captured him in 1960. Eichmann's trial in Israel and subsequent execution in 1962 became a landmark moment in the pursuit of justice. Josef Mengele, the Angel of Death, infamous for his horrific torture, experiments and murder of thousands of Auschwitz prisoners, also fled to Argentina. Mengele arrived in 1949, living openly for years before relocating to Paraguay and later Brazil to avoid capture. Unlike Eichmann, Mengele evaded justice in this life, dying in Brazil in 1979 after a stroke. His presence in South America remains a symbol of the difficulties in bringing war criminals to account. The stories of these men, and others like Erich Priebke and Walter Kuchmann, highlight how Argentina became a sanctuary for some of history's most wanted individuals. Their fates ranged from high-profile trials to quiet deaths in exile, reflecting the complex and often contradictory nature of Perón's policies. Beyond the strategic calculations, Argentina's long-standing German communities also played a role in providing an additional layer of acceptance for the influx of exiled Nazis. Buenos Aires became a microcosm of this strange convergence of old loyalties and new ambitions. The mechanisms that allowed Nazis to enter Argentina were intricate. As mentioned, many traveled via rat lines, orchestrated by figures like Austrian Bishop Alois Hudal, who facilitated the movement of war criminals through Italy to South America. Using forged Red Cross passports, men like Eichmann boarded ships bound for Argentina, often under false names. Once there, they assimilated into society with relative ease, supported by networks that included local sympathizers. By the late 1940s, whispers of Argentina's role in sheltering Nazis reached international ears. The United States and Israel became particularly concerned, especially as evidence mounted about prominent Nazis living comfortably in Argentina. The Eichmann case, in particular, shone a spotlight on the country's policies and the global quest for justice. Why, then, did Perón's policy endure even under scrutiny? The answer lies in a combination of ideology and the geopolitical realities of the Cold War. Perón's staunch anti-communism rhetoric aligned with Western priorities, which made countries like the United States hesitant to push too hard on Argentina's Nazi connections. Moreover, Perón's narrative of offering refuge to Europeans displaced by the war allowed him to mask the darker realities of his immigration policies. This facade, however, could not entirely conceal the truth. As historian Daniel Stahl explains, Argentina's role in sheltering Nazis became a stain on its international reputation, even as Perón sought to position the country as a neutral arbiter in Cold War politics. The question remains, why did Perón open Argentina's doors to Nazi fugitives? Was it a moral compromise for national interests, or a calculated political move? The answer likely lies somewhere in between. Perón's policies reflected a blend of ideological affinity, strategic opportunism, and a calculated risk to elevate Argentina's global standing. His admiration for authoritarian models may have shaped his willingness to align with controversial figures. This complex interplay of motives has left historians debating whether Perón prioritized Argentina's future or his own political ambitions. For some, Perón's actions were an unforgivable betrayal of justice by allowing between 5,000 to 9,000 Nazis and collaborators find refuge in Argentina, with between around 5 to 800 that had been directly implicated in war crimes. For others, his actions represent the grim pragmatism of a leader navigating the chaotic aftermath of war. What cannot be denied is the enduring impact of these decisions. They reshaped Argentina's international reputation, brought the horrors of the Holocaust to South America, and left a complex moral legacy. Today, the lessons of Perón's choices remain relevant. In a world still grappling with authoritarianism, extremism, and the displacement of peoples, Argentina's post-war policies serve as a cautionary tale about the risks of placing expediency over ethics. As we reflect on this history, we must ask ourselves, how do we balance the needs of the present with the lessons of the past? What are your thoughts? Was Perón's decision driven more by ideology or pragmatism? Could his actions ever be justified in the context of Argentina's ambitions? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective on this morally complex chapter in history. If you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the past, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Stay curious, seek wisdom, and we'll see you in the next chapter of history.